This evening I am going to be preparing balsamic tomato and herb chicken over buttery garlic spaghetti. Here are the ingredients. The ingredients include thin sliced boneless chicken breast, Roma tomatoes, salt, pepper, butter, Italian seasoning, garlic powder, minced fresh parsley, spaghetti noodles, and mozzarella cheese. The first step is to preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Place the rack to the very top. I will go ahead and show you. So notice how I have my very top rack on the very top. You will need to go ahead and start boiling water. I put salt and olive oil in the water and I set that to boil. Once it becomes a rapid boil, I will put in my spaghetti noodles. You will also need to have a pan to basically fry the chicken on both sides just to get a nice crisp outer layer, and then you put it in the oven to finish cooking. To prepare the chicken, I rinse the chicken and then I cut off any of like the excess cartilage or just any of the gooey stuff that's usually attached to chicken. I don't like that, so I cut everything. And then I season the chicken with salt, pepper, and then the Italian seasoning. You will do that on one side, and then in just a moment we're going to put these chickens on the pan with a little bit of olive oil and get that brownish coating on each side, about 3 minutes on each side, and then you put it in the oven. So my next step is to prepare my tomatoes. I've already washed my tomatoes and now I'm just going to go ahead and start slicing them. So this is a Roman tomato. I cut off the edge and then also the second edge. I slice it down the middle, and I'm just cutting the tomatoes into like good size cubes. So my tomatoes will look just about that size. And you're gonna just do that. I went ahead and I'm going to cut about 7 tomatoes. This recipe will feed about 4 people. So we're going to briefly saute the chicken. You just put some olive oil. I've already had this pan heated up. While this is heating up, also go ahead and get a cookie sheet, line it with foil, put some Pam spray on it so the chicken doesn't stick. And now I'm just going to go ahead and cook each side of the chicken for about 2 to 3 minutes. Putting the seasoned side of the chicken down. And then as I have the chicken cooking, I will season the other side. Both sides of my chicken have now been seasoned. I'm going to let this cook for about 3 minutes. Get it nice and brown, kind of still in the juices. And then once I flipped it and do the same thing on the other side, I'm going to put this chicken still uncooked onto the cookie sheet. And then we will go ahead and cook it the remainder of the time in the oven. I flipped over my chicken. You can tell that it's still raw because you can see the pink right there. So now I flipped it, doing the same thing on the other side. Notice how it has a little bit of browning. This is to lock in all the juices of the chicken and then to keep all the seasoning attached. As the chicken continues to cook on the other side, my pot of boiling water is ready for me to put in the spaghetti. Cook the spaghetti as indicated on the box. My box says about 10 minutes, so I'm just going to let the spaghetti cook. And I just dump it in there as the spaghetti noodles start to soften, it'll eventually all go down. I don't have to break the noodles in half. So I just gently start pushing the noodles down until all the noodles are fully submerged in the boiling water. You will let this cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. My chicken is done. I'm now going to just transfer it onto my cookie sheet and it will finish cooking in the oven. You are going to use the same saute pan that you used to brown the chicken in to cook your tomatoes. Once you've transferred the chicken onto your cookie sheet, just kind of spread it out. You're going to get the mozzarella cheese. I just buy the pre-shredded mozzarella cheese. And you will sprinkle the mozzarella cheese right on top of the chicken. So I've already sprinkled the the mozzarella cheese over the chicken. And now I'm just going to stick it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes. Once the chicken reaches internal temperature of 165, then I know it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and let that cook. So now it's in there. I still have my same saute pan that I cooked the chicken in, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil in my pan. I'm going to get my diced tomatoes. I'm going to dump that in there. I'm going to lower the heat from medium to a low medium. And I'm just basically sauteing my tomatoes. I'm going to sprinkle my tomatoes with some salt, pepper, and a little bit more of the Italian seasoning. Two ingredients that I forgot to mention was sugar and balsamic glaze. You are going to put this in with the tomatoes. So I have my tomato sauteing. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of sugar. This is just kind of give it a sweet taste around over my tomatoes. Mix that around. And then when the tomatoes kind of soften a little bit, right now you can tell that they're still kind of hard because you can see how they're taking the shape. The tomatoes have been sauteing for about 3 minutes. So they've gotten they've softened. So now I'm going to put the fresh parsley. It's about maybe 2 tablespoons. Or, if you want to add more, add more. So I have the fresh parsley. I just sprinkle this all around. I've already added the sugar with my tomatoes. And then next, the balsamic vinegar or the balsamic glaze. I just sprinkle this around. The balsamic glaze is thicker than balsamic oil, and I just maybe about less than 1/4 of a cup. And then I just mix this around. So basically this is the topping that you're going to put over the chicken and the spaghetti noodles. You don't want to overcook the tomatoes, so I would cook it no more than 7 minutes and then turn them off and then just let them sit. Let it just marinate with all the seasonings, with the parsley, the balsamic glaze, the Italian seasoning, and the sugar. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my flame. Go back to my spaghetti noodles. Kind of mix them around. It's very important that you put olive oil in the boiling water so then your noodles don't stick together. So the chicken, the internal temperature has already reached 165, so I went ahead and took out the chicken. The browning that you see is the mozzarella cheese. I add a little bit of extra mozzarella cheese on top of the chicken. You can omit that step if you like, or if you like extra mozzarella cheese, go ahead and feel free to add it. So now I'm checking on my spaghetti noodles. I just kind of pinch one of them. Careful not to burn yourself. If it feels tender, sometimes I taste it too. If it's nice and soft, then I know that my spaghetti noodles are done. I'm going to go ahead and shut off the flame. Before you drain your spaghetti noodles, you want to reserve about 3/4 of a cup of the liquid from the noodles, and then you are going to drain the noodles. So I have already drained my noodles. I'm going to put them back in the pot that I cooked them in. I'm going to add a little bit, probably about 1/4 cup at a time, of the reserved liquid back in the noodles. I'm going to get my butter. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter in with my noodles, and then with my garlic powder, I'm going to sprinkle 1 teaspoon of garlic powder over my noodles and mix them all together. Once this is done, then I'm going to start serving my plate with my noodles, my chicken, and then top the tomatoes right on top. So now I've served the meal. There's the spaghetti noodles, the chicken, the tomato, and then I top it with mozzarella cheese. Hope you enjoy.